Far beneath the waves, past the playful tides and dancing sunlight, lies a world wrapped in darkness and silence. It is a place so deep, so distant, that not even whales dare to wander there for long. This is the deep sea, not just the bottom of the ocean, but another world entirely, where survival is shaped by pressure, cold, and the art of holding on. Imagine falling slowly, endlessly, like a feather through black water. The surface disappears above you, the light fades to gray, then to blue, then to nothing at all. Down here there is no day or night, only shadow, only pressure. The weight of the world presses down like an invisible hand, not angry but firm, like the arms of a mother holding her child tight. This is the pressure that cradles life. At these depths, the pressure is crushing, hundreds of times greater than the air that wraps around us on land. A plastic bottle, if sent this deep, would crumple like paper. A human body would be squeezed and torn. But still, somehow, there is life. Tiny, glowing, clever, strange life. Creatures have not just survived here, they have flourished in silence. They have made the pressure part of who they are. Some are no bigger than grains of rice. Others drift like jelly-filled balloons. Their bodies are soft, bendable like whispers made of water. No bones to break, no lungs to pop, just soft forms shaped by time and need. The pressure does not hurt them because they were born within it. Like seeds pressed deep into soil, they have grown in darkness, fed by patience and strange energy. There are bacteria living on the sea floor, tucked into cracks where the Earth's heat seeps up like breath from sleeping volcanoes. These microbes eat chemicals instead of sunlight. They don't need the sky, they build their world from stone and gas. They are the quiet architects of deep life, invisible but everywhere. Giant tube worms curl from the rocks like red-tipped fingers. They have no mouths, no eyes, no stomachs. Inside, they hold helpful bacteria who do all the work, changing poisonous gases into food. It's a friendship that runs deeper than words. The worm gives the bacteria a home. The bacteria give the worm life. And all of it happens under crushing pressure and perfect darkness. The creatures here do not swim fast. They drift, hover, pulse gently. There is no need to hurry, food is rare, light is absent, and the world moves slowly. Many have large eyes, trying to catch the faintest flicker of light, or no eyes at all, trusting the currents to carry them. Some use smell or feel or quiet electrical pulses to find their way, like following the music of a song only they can hear. Deep-sea fish have bodies that shimmer like oil, with skin that bends light into shadows. Some have built-in lanterns, glowing patches on their heads or tails, where special bacteria shine softly. They use these lights to lure prey or find mates, or simply paint the blackness with pale green and blue. In a world without sun, bioluminescence is a language of hope. And then there are the fish that carry pressure in their very blood. Their cells are different, flexible, soft, and full of water. Some make special chemicals that stop their bodies from breaking. These molecules are like tiny guardians, holding their shape even as the world around them crushes in. These fish do not resist the pressure. They accept it. They become part of it. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the deep, not in sound but in silence. A slow, patient hum like the breathing of the earth itself. There are no storms here, no crashing waves, just stillness, just weight, just life shaped gently by the invisible hand of pressure. This is not survival through strength. It is survival through surrender, through softness, through letting go of the need to fight. And maybe that is what makes deep-sea life so mysterious. It has learned to thrive not by resisting the darkness, but by becoming a part of it. So when you think of the deep ocean, don't imagine it as empty or dead. Think of it as a cradle, ancient, vast, and full of secrets. A place where pressure does not destroy but holds everything gently in place. A world where life hums quietly, far from the noise, and waits for the curious heart to listen. Because even in the deepest dark, life finds a way to bloom. Let's drift deeper now into the heart of the deep sea, where the pressure does more than cradle, it sculpts, protects, and transforms. Down here, pressure is not just a force. It is the artist, the teacher, the keeper of balance. Every shape, every rhythm of life has been carved by its gentle weight. It is not a violence, but a quiet shaping, the same way wind smooths stone over centuries, or how a lullaby softens the silence of night. Picture the ocean as a giant layered cake, each layer growing darker, colder, and heavier as you move downward. The top layer is where sunlight still dances, playful and warm. Below that lies twilight, a zone of dim blue mystery. But far below, in the midnight zone, where light no longer reaches, pressure becomes the ruler. Down here, the sea presses in at over 1,000 times the pressure we feel on land. Yet life is not afraid. It has learned to dance with the weight. The deep sea's creatures do not harden themselves against this force. Instead, they dissolve the need for resistance. Their bodies are made with care, no hollow lungs to burst, no stiff bones to snap. Everything inside them flows. Their flesh is like memory foam, yielding and soft, returning to shape after every squeeze. Even their enzymes, the tiny machines inside every cell, are built to work only under pressure, like keys that only turn in the deepest locks. Some animals have antifreeze in their blood not for cold alone, but because pressure changes how water behaves. Water becomes slippery and strange, molecules clinging too tightly or not at all. Life adapts always. Fish like the snailfish, which live in trenches deeper than Mount Everest is tall, create special proteins that keep their cells from folding in on themselves. These proteins don't fight the pressure, they relax into it, like breath into sleep. The darkness here is not empty. It is full of quiet performances, lit not by the sun but by bioluminescence. Imagine tiny sparks, blue or green or soft violet, flickering like candlelight in a cathedral made of salt. Some flashes are warnings, I see you. Others are invitations, come closer. A few are tricks, lures for prey, like the anglerfish's glowing rod hanging just before its yawning jaw. These fish are patient, floating still for hours, waiting for hunger to pass by. Pressure also shapes how deep-sea creatures communicate. Sound travels faster down here, and lower-pitched sounds stretch for miles. Some whales, in their deepest dives, sing songs that wrap around the globe, their low moans curling through the water like ribbons of feeling. But smaller animals, like shrimp and squid, may never hear them. Instead, they talk in pulses of electricity, or touch, or even in scent, brief chemical notes drifting on the currents. And still the ocean floor lies deeper. The pressure there is almost beyond imagining. The Mariana Trench, the deepest known part of the ocean, drops more than 11 kilometers down. If you placed Mount Everest at its bottom, its snowy peak would still be underwater. Down here in the Hadal Zone, pressure is more than 1,000 atmospheres. That's like having 50 jumbo jets stacked on top of your body. Yet even in this abyss, life continues. Some scientists call this the last frontier, not because it is empty, but because it is so full of mystery. Robotic explorers, built like armored beetles, are sent down to sample the sediment, to glimpse the creatures that never leave. What they find is astonishing. Long-legged amphipods, ghost-like sea cucumbers, soft-bodied worms that move like thoughts. Many of these creatures have never been seen before. Some might never be seen again. And yet each one carries a story, not written in books or spoken in language, but written in flesh. Their bodies tell the tale of pressure's quiet power, how it presses not to punish but to shape, how it holds not to harm but to teach. Even the rocks down here remember the pressure. Black smokers, chimney-like vents, spout superheated water into the cold. The minerals crystallize on contact, forming towers that grow and crumble. Around them, life clusters. Blind crabs, tiny snails with iron shells, and bacteria that eat sulfur, all drawn to the heat, the minerals, the mystery. The pressure makes this possible. Without it, these towers would shatter. Without it, the heat would escape. On land, pressure is often a word for stress, for something to escape. But in the deep, it is a condition of life. It creates a silence where nothing is rushed. It teaches patience, gentleness, and endurance. To live here is to be shaped by weight and still rise, not upward but inward, becoming whole under the hug of the sea. The deep sea is not a place of fear. It is a cathedral of pressure and time. Its creatures are not monsters but monks, quiet, deliberate, and adapted to the sacred hush of depth. They do not chase, they drift. They do not shout, They glow. They do not flee. They fold into the sea's soft grasp and trust that it will hold them. Perhaps this is a lesson, not only for scientists, but for all who feel the weight of the world, that sometimes the answer is not to harden but to soften, not to fight but to float. That survival is not always about speed or strength, but about shaping yourself gently over time into something that fits the quiet around you. Because pressure, when welcomed, can make diamonds, and in the deep sea it makes life. Let us stay a little longer in this silent cathedral, where pressure does not stop at survival, but reaches deeper into the poetry of life. There is something sacred about the way this force presses from every side, not to crush, but to surround, not to break, but to remind every living thing that it is part of something vast and eternal. In the deep, there is no direction but inward. No horizon, no sky, no shore. Only the body, the breath, and the weight that never leaves. In this weight there is wisdom. Each creature, shaped over millions of years, has learned how to listen to the pressure instead of resisting it. They have given up things we think are necessary: eyes, lungs, warmth, and in their place, they have gained new senses, new patience, new beauty. The pressure is their teacher, and it speaks in silence. It says, slow down. It says, soften. It says, become what the sea asks of you, and you will be held. Take the deep-sea octopus who wraps herself around her eggs for years, not days or weeks, but years, never leaving, never eating, simply waiting in the dark, a heartbeat against stone. The pressure wraps around her, and still she waits until the tiny lives are ready to swim. No reward, no witness, no applause, just the quiet choice to stay, the strength to remain soft. That is the power of the deep. Or the gelatinous creatures, so translucent they seem made of breath, floating through the black like thoughts with wings. Their bodies are almost nothing, just a gentle suggestion of form. And yet they endure. They do not sink too fast. They do not rise too quickly. They hover in perfect balance with the pressure that surrounds them. They are reminders that sometimes being almost invisible is a form of mastery. Even the fish who build their homes from sand and shell do so with care. They sculpt ridges and spirals, not for shelter alone, but perhaps for joy, for pattern, for the unseen music of the sea floor. Pressure does not stop creativity. It shapes it. It makes each movement more deliberate, each choice more meaningful. There is no room for waste. So life becomes elegant, refined, quiet. And when something dies in the deep, a whale perhaps falling like a shadow from the surface world, the pressure receives it gently. It does not shatter bones or tear flesh. It welcomes the body like an offering, and life gathers. Crabs, worms, eels, microbes, they arrive slowly, respectfully, to share the gift. Over years, the whale becomes part of the floor, part of the hush, part of the ever-turning wheel of survival. Even in death, pressure does not forget tenderness. It is easy to imagine this world as lonely, but it is not. It is full of connection, only hidden from sight. The sea cucumbers that move in trails, leaving signals for others to follow. The lanternfish whose lights blink in code. The slow, rhythmic migration of plankton from deep to surface and back again, like a tide inside the ocean itself. Every movement is a thread, every creature a note in a sleeping song. There are places on the ocean floor where methane seeps from cracks in the earth, where life gathers around the cold fire of chemical reactions. These are not places of chaos, but of calm logic, where bacteria feed on the gas, where mussels host those bacteria in their tissues, where clams bury themselves and filter the currents. The pressure holds this fragile web together. Without it, the reactions would not hold. The balance would not last. And the creatures that have risen from these depths, caught in nets, brought to labs, do not always survive. Not because they are weak, but because they miss the pressure. They miss the silence, the hug of weight, the constant, faithful touch of the sea. Their bodies unfold too quickly. Their cells lose their rhythm. It is as if they are homesick for the embrace they were born into. So we must understand the pressure is not the enemy. It is the atmosphere of the deep. It is what makes this strange, slow, glowing life possible. It gives structure to the formless. It gives silence to the restless. It teaches that softness is not the opposite of strength, but its quiet sibling. In the end, what the deep sea shows us is not just biology. It is philosophy. It is a meditation on stillness, on surrender, on existing without needing to be seen. It whispers that there is power in being shaped instead of shaping, that there is beauty in not rushing, not rising, but simply being exactly where you are, exactly as you are, under the gentle weight of something bigger than yourself. The deep sea holds its secrets close, but if you listen not with ears but with breath and imagination, you might begin to understand. That pressure, when trusted, becomes peace. That darkness, when embraced, becomes home. That life, even in the most crushing places, finds a way not just to survive, but to glow. And maybe that is the quiet miracle of this world beneath all others, that in the soft arms of pressure, life has become something holy. In the deepest dark, where no sunlight ever falls, the sea holds its own stars. Tiny lights, scattered like embers in ink, blink on and off as if the ocean itself is breathing. These lights are not from the sky, not from electricity, not from fire. They are born inside living things, woven into flesh and bone. They are the lanterns of the deep, the glowing signs of life where it seems life should not exist at all. Down here the world is black, not dim, not dusky, but utterly dark, like the inside of a cave that never ends. Yet in that silence flashes of light bloom. They appear for a moment soft and blue or green or violet, then fade again into shadow. Some hover like spirits, some dart like sparks, some flicker from the bellies of drifting jellyfish or twinkle from the tips of tiny antennae. These lights have no wires, no batteries. They are grown. This miracle has a name, bioluminescence. It means living light. And in the deep sea it is everywhere. More than 3/4 of the creatures found here can glow in some way. For them, light is not a luxury. It is a tool, a language, a shield, a lure. It is how they eat, how they escape, how they find each other in a world with no morning. The anglerfish, perhaps the most famous of these glowing beings, is shaped like a ghostly balloon with a crooked smile. From her forehead grows a thin stalk, like a fishing rod, and at the tip, a tiny bulb of light. Inside that bulb, special bacteria live, glowing with their own mysterious energy. The anglerfish does not feed these bacteria. She does not speak to them, but they stay, and in return they shine. She hides in the blackness, holding perfectly still, her light swaying gently. To a passing fish, that glow looks like food, like movement, like safety. It swims closer, curious, hungry, and in a flash, it disappears into the anglerfish's mouth. A meal delivered by light. But not all lanterns are traps. Some are warnings. The deep-sea shrimp can spit out a cloud of glowing blue, a dazzling distraction that confuses predators and lets the shrimp vanish. Like a flash of lightning that leaves behind only darkness, the glow buys time. And time down here is everything. Other creatures use light to speak. The lanternfish has rows of glowing dots along its sides, tiny torches that can be turned on or off in patterns. Each fish has its own rhythm, like Morse code written in blue. Some flashes say, "I'm here." Others say, "I'm ready." Still others say, "Stay away." It is a quiet conversation, whispered through the dark. Even jellyfish, soft and drifting, have their own light shows. Some pulse with color when touched, glowing brighter as they move. Others flash in ripples, sending signals down their long, trailing arms. It's not clear who they're talking to, perhaps predators, perhaps mates, perhaps the ocean itself. But the message is always soft, always slow, always glowing. These lights are made through a dance of molecules, special proteins that mix with oxygen and sparkle. One of the most famous, called luciferin, glows when it meets an enzyme named luciferase. It sounds like magic, and it is a tiny spark inside a droplet of salt water, a flame with no heat, a candle that never burns. And yet in this world of glow there is still danger. Some fish light up only their undersides to match the dim light from above, a trick called counterillumination. It hides their shadows from anything lurking below. Others flash bright, then go dark, darting away in confusion. Light is both camouflage and signal. It hides as much as it reveals. In the darkest parts of the ocean, where no light ever filters down, bioluminescence becomes the only visible thread connecting one creature to another. A slow-falling speck may glow as it sinks, a glowing breadcrumb trail in a desert of black. Tiny plankton may flash when disturbed, like the stars of the sea being stirred by an unseen hand. The light is not constant. It flickers. It whispers. It comes and goes like dreams. And like dreams, these lights are fragile. When a creature is brought to the surface, to the world of air and noise and sunlight, its glow fades. The bacteria may die. The proteins may stop working. The lantern goes out. What lived brightly in the deep cannot always survive in the open. Its magic was meant for silence. Yet scientists still try to understand. They build submersibles that dive deep, their lights turned off so they don't scare away the glow. They send cameras with red filters because most deep-sea creatures cannot see red. It lets the watchers stay hidden. And what they find is astonishing. Living galaxies beneath the waves, fireworks made of fish, spirals of light that pulse across the sea floor. There is a kind of humility in this discovery. We who light cities, who chase the stars, must admit, the deep has its own sky, a sky made not of space but of salt, not of stars but of swimming lanterns, and in that sky each flicker tells a story. Some lights are warnings, some are bait, some are love songs, some are questions with no answers, but all are signs that life, even in the hardest places, chooses not just to survive but to shine. And when you lie still at night, eyes closed, surrounded by dark, think of that other darkness far below. A place with no sun, yet filled with light. A world where lanterns drift, quiet and patient, glowing not for glory but because they can. A reminder that even in the coldest, deepest, loneliest places, something still burns gently, not to warm but to wonder. Let's drift deeper still into the gentle science of glowing life. The soft lanterns of the deep are not just beautiful, they are also old, older than the forests, older than the rivers, older than memory. Bioluminescence is not a new invention. It is a quiet inheritance passed down through ages of darkness. Some of the earliest living things glowed long before eyes had learned to see, long before any creature had words to describe what light even was. It was not made for beauty. It was made for need. And what is need in the deep sea? It is not just hunger or fear, it is connection. In a place where vision fades, sound changes, and smell drifts slowly, light becomes the clearest language. But this is not a language of letters or loud voices. It is a soft rhythm, a pattern of appearing and disappearing, like blinking, like breathing, like the heartbeat of something dreaming far below the world. Some creatures use their light to attract a mate. They send out tiny signals, flashes in a certain pattern from a certain part of the body. The receiver, if nearby and ready, answers with their own soft pulse. No noise, no chase, just a patient shimmer of agreement. In this way, two lives find each other in the middle of forever dark, not through sight, not through sound, but through shared light. Other animals use bioluminescence to hide, even while glowing. It sounds like a trick, and it is. Called counterillumination, this method involves shining light downward from the belly, matching the faint glow of the surface above. To anything lurking below, the glowing fish disappears, blending in perfectly. It's a moving shadowless shape, a ghost on a background of pale blue. But there are more dazzling performances too. The Attila jellyfish, when threatened, bursts into spirals of flashing blue, not to blind the predator but to summon something larger. A second predator, drawn by the light, may attack the first. It's a glowing cry for help, a silent flare shot through the sea, saying, "Not today." Light becomes a plea, a trick, a survival dance. The flashlight fish carries small glowing organs beneath its eyes. These lights can be turned on and off like lantern shutters. With a quick twitch of muscle, it can flash a warning or turn invisible. It guides its way through coral canyons and signals its school in bursts of pulse and pause. In darkness, where nothing is fixed and everything moves, this flickering becomes a map, a guide, a heartbeat shared. And not all lights come from fish or jellyfish. Some are made by single-celled beings, no bigger than dust, floating near the surface but still part of the deep. These are dinoflagellates, tiny drifting creatures that burst into blue sparkles when disturbed. A boat slicing through water may leave a trail of glowing foam. A swimming seal might shimmer with a ghostly halo. Even a diver, moving gently, may seem wrapped in stars. These displays have stirred human wonder for centuries. Sailors once spoke of milky seas, entire regions of the ocean glowing faintly, like moonlit fog, for hours or even days. Only recently did scientists confirm these were vast blooms of bioluminescent bacteria, lighting up together in slow, steady rhythm. An entire sea-breathing light. An entire night sky reborn below the surface. The chemistry behind this glow is delicate. Luciferin, the molecule that glows, must meet its enzyme partner luciferase. Add oxygen and the magic begins. But this reaction must happen just right, not too fast, not too slow, not too hot or cold. Deep-sea creatures have evolved to keep their glow stable under immense pressure, freezing temperatures, and complete darkness. Their bodies are not just vessels for light. They are guardians of it. Some even farm the glow. Certain squid raise glowing bacteria inside special organs. They feed them, protect them, and in return receive light. These squid use their glow not only to hide or lure, but also to communicate. They can adjust brightness, focus it through filters, and pulse in patterns only they understand. It's not a simple light. It's a chosen one, tuned and tended like a living candle. Bioluminescence also affects the shape of life. Deep-sea creatures are often soft, translucent, or gelatinous forms that let light travel through the body or reflect it in useful ways. Their organs are arranged to frame the glow, not hide it. Their skins are sometimes embedded with mirrors, lenses, or pigments that shape the beam like a flashlight. This is engineering done by evolution. A million tiny choices sculpting a glowing tool from simple salt and cells. And still, much of it remains mysterious. We do not know all the reasons why some creatures glow. Some flashes may be leftover habits from ancestors long gone. Some may be messages we don't yet understand. Like musical notes from an instrument we haven't learned to play, these lights may hold meanings beyond what we can grasp. They flicker through the dark, waiting for eyes that can read their rhythm. In this way, bioluminescence is not just a trick or trait. It is a philosophy, a way of being, a belief that even in darkness, even in silence, something small and glowing can change everything. That a soft light held quietly can feed, protect, attract, and speak. It is not loud, it is not proud, but it endures. And when we imagine the ocean floor cold, heavy, and black, we must also imagine the lights, scattered like seeds, rising like thoughts, breathing like sleep. Because down there in the lantern blackness, life has chosen to shimmer. And that choice, made again and again over millions of years, tells us something gentle and true, that even in the loneliest places, something still burns softly, simply because it can. Now let us rest in the final stillness of this glowing journey, where the lanterns of the deep do more than light. They remember. They remember silence. They remember hunger. They remember the long patience of time itself. The deep sea does not rush. It does not shout. And neither do the lights. They flicker like breath, like memory, like the softest answer to the world's oldest question. How do you live where there is no light? And the answer, whispered across centuries in salt, is, you become the light. Some of the glow belongs to the tiniest lives, drifting unnoticed through the water column. These creatures, though small, carry the light like a seed inside them. Their glow is not a performance. It is a part of their rhythm, like a heartbeat. When touched, they shine. When disturbed, they ripple blue. They are reminders that not all brilliance roars. Some just tremble quietly in the dark, sharing their glow only when the world leans close enough to see. Other creatures are giants, like the comb jellies, trailing long, shimmering fringes that diffract light into rainbows. These rainbows are not reflections, they are refractions, the bending of faint light into something richer. They do not shine from within, but from motion. Their bodies catch the tiniest light and break it open, like a prism underwater. Even here, where no sunlight reaches, the sea finds a way to make colors bloom. But most glow from within, carrying their fire inside their bellies, their spines, their skins. These creatures do not chase the light. They are the light. and they carry it not for others to admire but because it is what they know. In their darkness, this is their nature, their survival, their truth. There is a shrimp who uses its light like ink, spitting clouds of glowing dust to blind its attacker. There is a worm who twists in the water, trailing long blue lines behind her, as if writing stories in the ocean's air. There are fish with lights beneath their eyes, beneath their tails, even hidden inside their mouths, ready to flash and vanish, lure and trick, or simply glow because that is what the deep sea asked them to become. And in this asking there is elegance, not in sharp colors or sudden flares, but in the restraint. No light is wasted, no flicker is without purpose. In a place where every shimmer might attract a hunter, every glow is a risk, and yet they shine, carefully, briefly, boldly. These are not fireworks, they are fireflies. These are not beacons, they are lullabies. Some use their lights to mimic other things, a glowing spot that looks like a worm, a blinking shape that resembles a smaller fish, even false eyes painted in bright blue, confusing predator and prey alike. This mimicry is not cruelty, it is art. It is survival shaped into illusion. The deep sea does not allow mistakes to last. Only the clever, the gentle, the glowing remain. And the bacteria who live inside many of these lanterns, what of them? They too glow not for themselves, but as part of something larger. They live inside the anglerfish's lure, inside the squid's pockets, inside tiny shells and organs. They ask for little, a home, a meal. In return, they shine. Their bodies turn simple chemistry into wonder. They are among the oldest glowing lives on Earth. They were here before fish had fins, before light had a name. They do not know fear, only glow. Above them the ocean may rage. Storms may churn the surface, lightning may dance across the waves, but below everything stays still. The pressure keeps its arms around everything. The silence holds firm, and in this hush the lights continue, quiet as a sigh, steady as breath, even when no one watches. And perhaps that is the most profound truth of all, that in the deepest part of our world where no eyes may ever see, life still shines, not to perform, not to be found, but simply because it can. There is something holy in that, something brave, something soft and eternal. We often imagine that darkness is empty, that it must be filled, conquered, pushed away. But in the ocean, darkness is not an enemy. It is a canvas, and bioluminescence is the brush. Each flicker paints a story that lasts only a second, but the story is told 1,000,000 times across 1,000,000 nights. It is not made to be remembered. It is made to be felt. And if you ever stand at the edge of the sea, where the tide pulls back and forth like the breath of a sleeping world, remember the lanterns. Remember the creatures who glow without asking, who shine without pride, who teach us without words that beauty is not about brightness, but about quiet persistence. The sea in its deepest places does not forget its lights. They remain, pulsing, waiting, breathing in the blackness. They are not there to be captured, only witnessed. They are not there to prove anything, only to remind us that even in the places where all light disappears, something still finds a way to shine from within. And maybe if you close your eyes and listen long enough, you'll feel it too. A flicker, a pulse, a soft light in your own deep, waiting to rise, not loudly, not quickly, but in the way of the sea, in the way of things that last forever. Far below the rolling surface, where waves stretch and fold like whispers across the sky, a different kind of hunger waits. Not the hunger of teeth and chase, not the sharp hunger of battle or speed, but a quieter one, slow, patient, and endlessly deep. It is the hunger of the ocean floor, where life must wait for the fall, where nothing is certain but gravity, and every meal begins with a drift of dust. Down here, sunlight never touches. Plants do not grow. There is no photosynthesis, no blooming algae, no food chain spun from the sun's fire. Instead, the deep sea survives on the rain. A soft, continuous rain of tiny flakes, broken bodies, drifting waste, shed skins, plankton dust. It falls slowly, like ash from an invisible fire, settling gently over centuries, covering the sea floor in a fine layer of memory. This is marine snow, Not cold, not bright, but named for its look, pale specks spiraling down through the dark, soft as silence. Each flake is a story, a cell that lived and died, a piece of something once vibrant, a note from the surface sent downward with no return address. And in the absence of light, this becomes life's beginning. Every crab, every worm, every fish that crawls along the bottom waits for the snow. Some wait with nets. Brittle stars, their arms stretched wide, catch the flakes as they fall. Others wait with mouths open like sea cucumbers gulping dust. Still others bury themselves and sift the sediment for secrets. Nothing is wasted. What the snow doesn't feed directly, it feeds eventually. Life eats what it can, then passes the rest along. But sometimes the hunger calls down something bigger, a whale perhaps, reaching the end of its journey, falling slowly like a drifting island. This is a whale fall. When a creature of such size descends into the abyss, the deep awakens. First come the scavengers, hagfish, sharks, amphipods, stripping the soft parts with delicate urgency. Then come the bone-eaters like the Ostax worm, who drill into the skeleton itself, growing roots to suck out marrow. Around this feast, a city blooms. Microbes multiply, worms blossom. New species appear, drawn by scent, by hunger, by ancient knowledge. And when all is gone, flesh, oil, bone, the silence returns, and the snow resumes its slow drift. But the memory of the whale lingers, not in bones, but in bodies that were fed, in eggs that hatched, in soft trails carved across the silt. The ocean floor is not empty, it only moves slowly. Its hunger is not violent but certain, and to live here is to accept that food comes not when you chase it but when you wait. Creatures here are shaped by that waiting. They are slow, deliberate, often transparent. Their mouths are wide, their movements minimal. They are patient in ways that seem almost holy. Take the sea pen, rooted like a ghostly feather, filtering the water for plankton. Or the giant isopod, armored and ancient, who may go months without eating and when it does eat, gorges until it can barely move. This is not greed, it is strategy. When food is rare, you must be ready to take everything. You must be shaped by hunger without being consumed by it. Some animals live near cold seeps, places where methane or hydrogen sulfide leak from the earth, like breath from a sleeping giant. Here, bacteria feed not on sunlight but on chemicals. They turn poison into sugar. They form the first link of strange food webs where worms, clams, and mussels gather in silent congregation. It is not fire but fermentation, not light but chemistry, and still it is enough. Others live near hydrothermal vents, where water heated by magma bursts through cracks in the sea floor. Here, in the most violent, metal-rich plumes, life thrives. Giant tube worms, blind shrimp, even squat lobsters, all surviving in boiling darkness. These creatures are fed by chemosynthetic bacteria, who turn heat and minerals into energy. It is a kind of cooking without flame, a recipe written in pressure and gas. But most of the ocean floor is not so dramatic. It is wide, flat, and blank, a desert of silt and waiting. Here the hunger is lonelier. A crab may walk for miles across nothing, hopping to stumble upon a fallen jellyfish. A fish may hover for hours above a single shrimp hole. A worm may coil endlessly through the mud, tasting the past with its skin. In this world, every meal is sacred. Every bite is an offering, and so nothing is wasted. Even bones become coral-like structures housing new generations. Even feces are filtered, spun into silk-like trails, consumed again. The hunger that shapes the ocean floor is not cruel, it is circular. It feeds, it fades, it returns. It teaches patience, humility, balance. There are no predators here in the way we understand them. There is no chase, no roar, no ambush. There is only opportunity, the slow noticing of a chance, the soft approach, the quiet feeding. Life is built not on victory but on endurance, not on sharpness but on persistence. And so the hunger does not destroy. It defines. It tells the creatures who they are, how they move, how they wait. It carves the shape of every fin, every gut, every mouth. It is not an enemy. It is a sculptor. And the sea floor, though still, though silent, is its gallery. In this gallery nothing shouts, everything listens. The snow falls, the bones settle, the mouths open slowly, reverently. And in that motionless hush, life continues not in spite of the hunger but because of it. Let us continue in this stillness, where the ocean floor teaches us how hunger can be quiet, enduring, and filled with wonder. This is not the hunger we know on land, sudden, sharp, and easily solved. It is deeper, slower, older. It does not cry out, it waits. And in that waiting, it shapes entire worlds beneath our own. The creatures of the abyss are shaped not only by what they eat, but by what they expect, which is almost nothing. Their bodies have evolved to make miracles from scraps, a sip of protein from a sinking flake of skin, a tiny meal from a drifting egg. The sea spider, long-legged and delicate, may pass weeks feeding from just one soft-bodied sponge. The ghost shark may glide silently, feeding on buried worms it detects with electroreception, sensing the faint electricity of beating hearts beneath the mud. This hunger builds strange anatomies, wide mouths, stretching stomachs, tiny jaws that unfold into unexpected shapes. Some deep-sea fish have teeth that fold inward, trapping prey that may come only once in a month. Others have expandable stomachs, growing like balloons to hold more than their own body weight in food. This is not greed, it is preparation. When the meal comes, you must take all it offers, for it may not return. Even their metabolisms whisper of hunger. Many deep-sea animals have slowed everything, heartbeat, movement, growth, to conserve energy. The Greenland shark grows only a fraction of an inch per year, yet may live for hundreds of years. It eats rarely, perhaps only a few seals in a decade, and spends its life drifting through black water like a forgotten thought. Its hunger does not scream. It hums. On the muddy plains, sea cucumbers inch forward, swallowing sediment, digesting the past. Their bodies are soft, muscular, able to change shape to move through crevices or bury into sand. They do not look like hunters, yet they are sculptors of the sea floor, clearing, filtering, redistributing nutrients grain by grain. They shape the ecosystem not through aggression but through quiet digestion. Their hunger is patient and their influence is wide. In this slowness, competition is rare. There is little to fight over. More often, life moves around each other, respecting space, sharing trails. The territory of a deep-sea octopus may span yards yet go untouched for years. Crabs pass each other with antennae raised, not in challenge but in greeting. The hunger binds them in mutual understanding that survival here is not about dominance but endurance. Sometimes in rare moments a sudden bounty falls, not a whale but a shower of jellyfish or a pulse of dying plankton above. Then the deep awakens, the snow becomes thick. The scent travels, scavengers rise from holes, worms uncoil, eyes glow, mouths open, but there is no chaos, only quiet urgency. Even in abundance the deep does not rush, it receives. In some places, strange fields of tubeworms and clams thrive in the absence of falling snow, feeding instead on chemical flows from within the earth. These organisms hold symbiotic bacteria inside their bodies, which convert gases like methane or sulfide into energy. The tubeworm does not eat with a mouth. It feeds by partnership. This shared hunger builds strange communities, forests of red-tipped stalks, colonies of filter-feeding shells, all pooling gently with unseen meals. Elsewhere, creatures bore into bone. The Ostax worm has no mouth, no stomach, no eyes. Instead, it grows root-like tendrils that burrow into fallen whale bones, extracting oils and proteins hidden in the fossilized marrow. Around it, tiny crabs, snails, and limpets feed on the leftovers. This is not decay. It is inheritance. A single skeleton may feed an ecosystem for decades, layer by layer, hunger by hunger. The ocean floor is often imagined as barren, but that is only because we expect noise, movement, flash. In truth, it is busy with slow grazers, quiet sifters, drifting eaters. The fish here hover instead of dart. The predators wait instead of chase. A gulper eel may stretch its mouth wide enough to engulf a fish half its size, but it will spend hours in the dark, unmoving, mouth agape, like a trap waiting for time to pass through. Everywhere the hunger persists, not just for food but for survival, for meaning, for connection. It is written in the grooves on a crab's shell, in the angle of a jaw, in the pale glow of an eye that has never seen sunlight. It is in the patience, in the stillness, in the way creatures move without disturbing the silt, the way they wait for the snow to fall again. Even the bacteria, those invisible workers of decay and transformation, are driven by hunger. They cling to particles, digesting them from the inside out. They form mats across hydrothermal vents. They coat dead jellyfish. They live inside clams and worms. Their hunger is the beginning of everything and the end. It breaks down what once lived and feeds what will live next. And above all this, far above the floor, the surface world continues, full of color, of speed, of sound. Fish dart, waves crash, sunlight dances, but it is the deep that holds the memory of hunger, not as a wound but as a rhythm, not as a punishment but as a teacher. It shows us that even when everything is scarce, when the world is cold and black, life adapts. It endures. It finds ways to feed from the smallest things. It stretches its mouth, its stomach, its understanding. It becomes less wasteful, more still, more soft. It lets go of the need for more and finds enough in a falling flake, a breath of methane, a broken bone. This is the hunger that shapes the ocean floor. It is not desperate, it is wise. It does not cry out, it waits. And in that waiting it becomes the architecture of survival. Let us now drift gently toward the closing of this story, where the slow hunger of the ocean floor reveals itself not as emptiness, but as a quiet thread that ties all life together. It is easy to imagine that hunger means longing or lack. But here, in the darkest places on Earth, hunger is not just a need. It is a design, a discipline, a soft persistence that reshapes everything it touches. The sea floor stretches for thousands of miles across plains of mud, fields of shells, ridges of rock and heat. And in all that space there is no waste. A fish dies and its body becomes food. A jelly falls and the worms gather. Even the waste of waste, broken shells, digested fragments, ancient dust is taken in, processed again, returned to the cycle. The hunger here is circular. It makes room for everything. And in this balance time slows. There is no rush because nothing can be rushed. A crab may walk for days without finding food. A worm may go years without mating. A fish may survive on one meal a month, sleeping in between. Yet the ocean floor endures. It lives on in low metabolism and soft movement. It is not silent because it is empty. It is silent because it listens. Even the landforms here are shaped by this slow hunger. Sediment builds up in drifts and dunes, sculpted by unseen currents. Whale bones form ridges. Coral-like growths take shape on forgotten debris. Polychaete worms build tubes from grains of sand, aligning each piece with a care that speaks of reverence. The sea builds cathedrals out of leftovers. It creates monuments out of remains. This is not decay, it is continuation. And what of memory in this place? There are no books, no songs, no names. But there is memory in the layers of mud, in the carbon stored in a snail's shell, in the fossils pressed gently into stone by weight and time. Each tells a story of what fed, what was fed upon, what lingered. Even the smallest scavenger carries ancient instructions in its genes, whispering how to find food, how to take little, how to wait. In rare moments, dramatic hunger emerges, an eruption of heat from the Earth's crust, a sudden fall of thousands of jellyfish, a shipwreck, a storm above. Then life converges in numbers unseen, brittle stars piling atop each other, hagfish twisting in coils, amphipods clustering like wind-blown leaves. The sea floor, usually calm, becomes momentarily electric. But even this frenzy is quiet, measured, never wasteful. When the feast ends, stillness returns as if nothing had happened. And still, some creatures make their own food. Near the vents, bacteria thrive without sunlight, drawing energy from sulfur and metal-rich water. They form the base of entire ecosystems. Giant tubeworms grow meters tall, their red plumes swaying like underwater trees. They have no mouth, no gut, only these bacteria inside them. It is a partnership that defies what we think hunger means. It is not always about devouring. Sometimes it is about hosting, sharing, transforming. The clams here are enormous, their shells stained with iron and heat. Their bodies pulse with the slow work of their internal guests, microbes turning gas to sugar. They filter water not just to clean it, but to read it, sensing subtle shifts in chemistry that signal the presence of food. Every breath they take is a prayer for nourishment, and every breath is answered in time. Even the rocks are part of the cycle. Some bacteria live in the cracks, feeding on the minerals themselves, etching tiny paths across the stone. They work without mouths, without movement, but still they feed. Their hunger is chemical, invisible, and ancient. It is hunger not just for energy, but for transformation. Above this world, sunlight touches coral reefs and kelp forests. Fish flash and chase. Birds dive. Humans gather. But far below, in the silence that spans the globe, the ocean floor continues its quiet feast. It teaches that survival is not always about abundance. It is about patience, about knowing how to make much from little, about finding enough in almost nothing. This lesson seeps into every grain of silt. It is in the way a snail digs without seeing, in the way a shrimp feels vibrations through its legs, in the way a blind fish navigates miles of darkness guided by smell alone. These are not signs of weakness. They are marks of mastery, evolution shaped not by force but by stillness. And when we study these creatures, when we send down lights and robots, when we scoop up samples or watch from the shadows, we must remember, we are visitors in a cathedral built of hunger. We are guests in a place where every meal is sacred, every bite remembered, every silence respected. To look closely is to be humbled. Because in the end, the hunger that shapes the ocean floor is not about desperation. It is about design. It reminds us that not all life shouts. Some waits, some endures. Some builds its body from falling snow, from ancient heat, from broken bones and drifting dust. It reminds us that even when everything else is gone, the light, the sound, the speed, hunger remains. Gentle, persistent, creative, and life drawn by that hunger follows, not in fear, but in rhythm. And so the sea floor breathes, the snow falls, the mouths open. The cycle turns again, not loudly, not suddenly, but always. In the vastness of the ocean, where sound travels farther than sight and deeper than light, communication becomes something extraordinary. It is not spoken through words or written on paper. It flows in pulses, in vibrations, in echoes that bounce across continents of water. The sea, in its quiet wisdom, has shaped a world where voices are made of movement, and messages ride the current like drifting leaves. These are the whispers through salt and silence, the soft language of the deep. Imagine a place where you cannot see more than a few feet ahead, where your eyes fail you and the dark wraps around you like a blanket. In such a world, speaking is not a choice, it is a necessity. And the ocean listens. It listens with pressure, with temperature, with waves that ripple and curl and carry meaning. It listens through whale song, through clicking shrimp, through the delicate push and pull of fins against water. Even the smallest ripple has something to say. A shrimp snapping its claw sends out a shockwave not to harm but to mark its presence. A school of fish moves as one, their bodies turning in perfect rhythm, communicating with no sound at all. Their scales reflect faint light, their movements a language of alignment and intention. This is not chaos, it is coordination born from centuries of survival. Whales sing songs that travel across entire oceans. Humpbacks string together patterns of moans and cries, low rumbles and high trills. Each song is unique to a population, and it changes over time, evolving like culture passed from one voice to the next. A male may sing the same melody for hours, broadcasting not just location but identity. And somewhere far away, another listens. The sound may take minutes to arrive, but it carries the heartbeat of the singer with it. Dolphins, those clever architects of underwater play, speak in clicks and whistles, each with a signature whistle that acts like a name. They call to one another, recognize family, even mimic the sounds of human boats and machinery. Their language is not just noise. It is recognition, memory, relationship. They use sonar to map their world, bouncing clicks off coral and fish, building mental images with sound. In the deepest trenches, where light is forever absent, Fish speak in pulses of electricity. Some send out weak electric fields to feel their surroundings. Others use stronger jolts to warn or stun. These are not words in the way we know them. They are presence, intention, direction. Communication shaped by biology, honed by pressure and patience. Even creatures with no voice leave messages behind. The trails left by crabs in the sand, the scent released by a cuttlefish, the ripples from a fin flick. These signals are ephemeral, fading quickly, but for a moment they mean everything. They say, "I was here." They say, "Follow." They say, "This space is taken." And then there are the coral reefs, vast, living cities built from the bodies of tiny animals. Corals release chemical signals into the water, telling larvae when to settle, warning neighbors of damage, inviting or repelling. These molecules drift invisibly, like letters sealed in bottles, opened by the right reader at the right time. The reef hums with this quiet correspondence, even as waves crash far above. The sea turtles who migrate across oceans remember routes through magnetic fields. They imprint the Earth's signature in their minds, reading changes in the planet's invisible fabric. They do not speak aloud, but their movements tell a story, a whisper of instinct passed through generations, unspoken but unforgotten. And even the sea itself speaks. It speaks through the hush of currents, the tumble of sand, the crackle of ice. It speaks through storms and calm, through the long pull of tides. The ocean has its own rhythm, and all who live within it learn to move in time. This rhythm is not written. It is felt, taught not by words but by water. When a predator enters the scene, silence often says the most. A school of fish goes still, a reef hushes, even the water seems to tense. In this pause, the message is clear: danger, retreat, caution. And then once the threat passes, the whispers resume. A shell clinks against rock, a bubble rises, a shrimp clicks. The conversation begins again, soft as breath. Some of the ocean's loudest sounds come from the smallest things. The pistol shrimp snaps its claw so fast it creates a bubble that collapses with a crack as loud as a gunshot. This sound stuns prey and startles predators. Nearby shrimp can hear it, too, a signal of territory, of activity. A voice so strong it echoes beyond the body that made it. And far beneath the surface, in places humans have only touched with machines, hydrothermal vents hiss and pop with energy. The sound is not language, but it becomes one. Creatures gather near, guided by the vibration. The rhythm becomes a meeting place, a landmark in the otherwise featureless dark. In the sea, to be silent is not to be still. Even silence has texture here. A lack of movement, a pause in current, a sudden drop in sound can carry meaning just as strong as a call. Some fish freeze to avoid detection. Others hide in sound shadows created by rocks. Communication is not just about sending, it is about sensing. Feeling the world shift around you and knowing what it means. This is the gentle science of ocean language, shaped not by lips or ink but by evolution and need. It is a language of vibration, chemistry, light, and motion. It is not loud, but it is clear. And every creature who lives in water, from the plankton to the whale, learns to speak it, not in the way we do, but in a way just as deep. Let us drift further into the silent song of the sea, where every motion is a message, and every pause contains a meaning. The ocean, though vast and unknowable, is never truly quiet. Its quietness is filled with listening. Its stillness is filled with stories. Beneath the weight of salt and water and time, creatures speak without words, and the deep hums with conversations shaped by motion, vibration, and memory. Among the reefs, the chatter of life is constant. Fish flick their fins and adjust their bodies, sending subtle cues through ripples. Cleaner fish signal readiness by performing a dance, fluttering in place as an invitation to larger fish seeking parasite removal. The client fish approaches, slows, tilts, a body language conversation where both understand what is being asked and offered. The act is peaceful, cooperative, and precise. One fish offers care, the other offers trust. This is language without a sound. Cuttlefish flash their skin with colors and patterns, their bodies a living screen of changing light. Their chromatophores expand and contract, creating waves of stripes or pulses of color that move like thought. They use this shifting canvas to warn, to court, to confuse, to vanish. One cuttlefish can speak to another while blending into its background, its messages private and perfectly timed. This is not just camouflage, it is conversation. Octopuses, too, shape their signals through color, texture, and movement. An octopus resting in its den may flash a dark pattern across its skin, a warning perhaps or a sign of stress. It may mimic rocks, coral, or other creatures, its body folding into shadows that say, "I am not here." But when curious or content, its colors soften, its arms flow loosely. To watch an octopus is to read a mood, a message, a mind. Their bodies hold entire vocabularies of light and shape. And further down, where even these colors fade into black, other languages emerge. Lanternfish blink in coded rhythms, bioluminescent messages that flicker across their flanks like sentences. These signals might say, "Follow me," or "I am not prey," or "This is my space." The flash is brief, often invisible to predators but perfectly seen by others of their kind. It is communication in the safest shade of blue. In the cold plains of the deep, worms build trails in the mud, and these lines become a kind of writing. They guide others, mark territory, suggest feeding zones. Tiny creatures trace these paths, reading with their antennae and legs. A trail might be old, but in the deep, memory moves slowly, and even faint marks hold meaning. Chemical cues are among the ocean's oldest languages. Fish release pheromones to mark spawning grounds. Sea slugs follow the scent trails of mates. Coral larvae drift toward the smell of healthy reefs. These are not scents in the way we know them, not flowers or spices, but molecular signatures, unique and instructive. One puff of chemical in the water can mean danger, another food, another home. Some of these chemical whispers drift for miles, carried by gentle currents. Others are more immediate, fatting quickly in the moving water. But all are sensed, all are used. In the ocean, even the smallest breath has the power to guide. And not all listening happens in the dark. In the shallows, parrotfish grind coral with beak-like teeth, their crunches echoing through the reef. Snapping shrimp click like underwater static. These sounds create a kind of acoustic landscape, a sound map of reef life. Fish larvae seeking a place to settle use these sound cues to find healthy homes. Where the reef is noisy, life thrives. Where the reef is silent, it is often dying. The ocean soundscape is layered. Low rumbles of distant earthquakes, the haunting calls of whales, the soft drumming of a fish's swim bladder. Even human ships add to this mix, their engines sending out long mechanical growls that stretch across continents. This noise, though accidental, becomes part of the conversation, often a dangerous one. It masks the voices of whales, confuses the sonar of dolphins, startles schools of fish into panic. In response, some animals have adapted. Whales deepen their calls. Dolphins wait for silence to speak, but others struggle. The language of the ocean, once clean and ancient, is now crossed with static. And yet beneath the growing noise, the natural conversation continues, soft and persistent. Jellyfish pulse not only to move but to feel. Their bodies sense the motion of water, the shift of temperature, the trembling of passing creatures. They do not see well nor hear as we do, but they are never unaware. Their stillness is not emptiness, it is alertness. They float with their senses spread wide, every filament listening. Bivalves like mussels and scallops snap shut at the faintest change in vibration. Their shells are not just armor, they are ears. They hear pressure, current, footsteps. They know when the tide shifts. They know when danger is near. Their silence is not sleep. It is attention. This attentiveness runs deep. It is part of life's design. In the ocean, survival does not always go to the loudest, but often to the most attuned, those who feel the ripple, the chemical shift, the electric whisper. This is not communication for expression alone. It is communication for existence. To know, to react, to belong. And so the ocean continues to murmur in its countless dialects, sonar and shimmer, scent and silence. Some voices boom, others blink. Some drift on molecules, others crackle through pressure. Together they form an unending song, a symphony played in every current, sung in every shell. To listen to the sea is to understand that communication does not require speech, that listening does not require ears, that understanding can bloom from the faintest vibration, the softest glow, the smallest trail of scent through salt. Here, in this world beneath our own, every breath is a message, every move is a sentence, and all who live within the water, from the drifting plankton to the giant whale, are readers and writers of the same quiet language. Let us stay just a while longer in this underwater hush, where every movement is a word and every silence is a space between lines. The sea, beneath its weight and darkness, is fluent in languages we are only beginning to recognize. It does not need sentences to speak. It does not need ears to hear. It speaks in rhythms older than time, in signals shaped by tides, and in whispers that flow through salt and silence. In the deepest parts of the ocean, where no sunlight ever reaches, creatures communicate not with sound but with subtle light and pressure. The flicker of a photophore, the shiver of a tail through still water, the slow unfolding of a fin in answer to a nearby presence. These gestures carry meaning, not shouted meaning but deep, deliberate intent. Down here, haste is dangerous. Everything is slower. Everything is clearer. A pause is not emptiness, it is listening. Some fish blink bioluminescent messages to one another, brief flashes like punctuation marks in the dark. Others change posture, floating a little higher, angling slightly sideways, to signal openness or warning. In this space, where shadows are thick and danger lives in stillness, the ability to communicate silently is not an advantage. It is survival. And in this slow world, animals learn to know each other not through sight but through pressure waves and chemical trails. A passing creature displaces the water and others feel it, faint ripples that touch the skin like a breath. To some, this is language. The sense of who is near, how fast they move, what direction they take. These are messages written in liquid. Cephalopods, the poets of the sea, are masters of such languages. An octopus resting in its cave watches the shifting water and changes its skin in response, darkening when annoyed, paling when calm, spiking into texture when alarmed. These signals are not performed, they are felt. Emotion becomes color. Thought becomes shape. The body becomes its own vocabulary, flowing and reforming in time with the mood. And still deeper, where even bioluminescence fades into black, life does not grow quiet, it becomes intuitive. A crab taps its claws softly on rock, feeling the echo. A fish wiggles through narrow paths, its sides brushing against familiar stone. Even worms communicate here, not with sound, not with light, but with chemical signatures that trace paths in the mud. Each scent a story, each touch a sign. Communication in this part of the ocean is not for performance. It is for recognition, for intimacy, for survival. It is how a mate is found in a world of darkness, how danger is sensed before it strikes, how one creature remembers another without ever having seen them. These are not shouts across distance. They are whispers within it. And there is another kind of conversation happening always, one that stretches far beyond any single animal, the slow, constant dialogue between ocean and earth. Currents carry nutrients across vast expanses. Salinity shifts in tiny degrees. Temperatures rise by fractions. And with these changes come messages that all marine life reads: the spawning of coral, the blooming of plankton, the migrations of whales and turtles, all tied to these planetary cues, these whispers of heat and salt and time. Whales, the singers of the sea, carry stories from one hemisphere to another. Their calls roll across basins, bending around continents, dipping into trenches, rising into ridges. Some of these calls travel for hours before fatting. Others are meant only for those nearby. Yet all are part of an ancient music, one that flows through the bones of the earth and the bodies of the animals who listen. And yet, despite this music, the sea is increasingly interrupted. Human noise, sonar, shipping lanes, drilling rattles the silence. It is like thunder in a chapel. Many marine animals struggle to hear each other now. Their clicks are lost in engine hums, their patterns broken by machines. But still, the ocean tries to speak. It adjusts. It deepens its tones. It listens for quieter hours. Because the sea is not only resilient, it is remembering. It remembers how to hum even when silenced. It remembers how to feel even when unseen. And the creatures who live within it continue their soft conversations, shaping their bodies and minds around new forms of listening. Their instincts are ancient, but their languages evolve. They do not stop speaking. They speak differently. Some scientists now believe that jellyfish, though simple, may sense and respond to waves of energy in the water, adjusting their pulses in coordination. Some believe sea stars may use chemical cues to share warnings, and others think fish in schools are connected by invisible lines of sensation, reacting as one not through thought, but through shared awareness. These are not facts we fully understand yet, but they are truths the ocean has known for a long time. That meaning can be shared without noise. That presence can be felt without form. That connection can happen without touch. And maybe that is the ocean's greatest whisper, that life does not need to be loud to be full. That silence is not emptiness. It is another kind of fullness, one shaped by awareness, by openness, by the steady willingness to feel more than you say. So let us leave this story with a soft image, a dark sea, vast and quiet. A fish flickers once in the deep, then goes still. A shrimp snaps far away. A whale sings somewhere in the distance, its voice traveling through mountains of water. And between all of these moments, between every sound and flash and ripple, there is listening, deep, patient, sacred listening. This is the language of the sea, not shouted, not written, but lived. In the deepest places of the sea, cold is not just a temperature, it is a presence, a force, a sculptor of life itself. It presses in from all sides, not with sharpness but with steadiness, not with violence but with insistence. The cold here does not come and go with seasons. It does not soften with the sun. It is always, it is everything. And in this unchanging stillness, life does not disappear. It adapts. It evolves. It burns with a quiet flame that does not warm but survives. The ocean, beneath its top layers of warmth and wind, is mostly cold. Past the sunlit surface, past the shifting blue, lies a world where the water never rises above freezing, and yet it never freezes. The salt in the sea lowers the freezing point, allowing liquid water to exist at temperatures that would harden lakes and rivers into ice. Down here, the cold flows not in gusts, but in currents, wide rivers of chilled water moving slowly across the bottom of the world. And this cold is not dead. It moves, it shapes, it defines. It determines what can live and how. Molecules shift more slowly in cold water. Chemical reactions take longer. Muscles contract with hesitation. Enzymes function only if tailored precisely. In this chilled chemistry, time stretches. Life slows. Some fish here grow so slowly they may live for centuries. Some embryos take years to hatch. Cold is the great quieting force, not stopping life, but asking it to wait. The creatures that live in these places are wrapped in softness. Their bodies are not built to fight the cold, but to move with it. Their blood may carry special antifreeze proteins, tiny molecules that slip between ice crystals and stop them from forming. These proteins don't warm the blood. They simply prevent damage. They let the cold stay and keep life flowing within it. Antarctic nodothenoid fish are among these quiet alchemists. They swim in waters below zero, their blood laced with antifreeze made in their livers. These proteins are not accidental. They are the result of countless generations meeting the cold and learning to stay soft. The fish do not flee the chill. They become fluent in it. Other animals wrap themselves in insulation. The southern elephant seal dives into freezing depths wrapped in thick blubber, storing heat like a candle in wax. Penguins swim through icy currents, their feathers layered and waterproofed, trapping warm air beneath. But even these surface-born creatures are visitors to the cold. The deep-sea dwellers live in it always, their bodies shaped entirely by it. The cold does not only shape bodies, it shapes minds. Neural signals travel more slowly. Reactions are muted. Predators do not dash, they drift. Prey does not flee, it folds inward, becomes still, becomes invisible. A slow dance emerges, one choreographed not by fear but by energy conservation. Every movement must be worth the heat it costs. This slowness is not dullness. It is precision. The jellyfish who pulses once every 10 seconds still moves with intention. The isopod who scuttles across the sand with glacial care is not lazy. It is tuned to its world. To move slowly in the cold is to live exactly as needed, nothing wasted, nothing rushed. There are places beneath the ice under the Antarctic shelf where water moves like glass, lakes sealed beneath glaciers, caves hidden in frost. Here bacteria live without sunlight or warmth, drawing energy from the minerals in rock. They form mats thin and fragile yet persistent. Some may be thousands of years old, never once touched by air, and still they grow, they divide, they exist. Some creatures freeze on purpose. Arctic copepods enter diapause, a kind of suspended animation, lowering their metabolism to near zero as they drift in the dark, awaiting the return of food. In this frozen sleep, their bodies conserve everything: time, energy, memory. They become small prayers wrapped in ice, waiting for the tide to turn. And in the spaces between ice, life blooms. Brine channels, tiny tunnels of salty liquid trapped in sea ice, become nurseries for microbes. These organisms live in droplets so small a pin could cover them, and yet within each drop is a universe. They survive extreme cold not by resisting, but by forming protective sugars, coiling their molecules into tighter, safer shapes. Their chemistry is a shield, their patience, a torch. We often speak of cold as emptiness, but here it is a full thing. It is a presence that fills every part of the water. It is not against life. It is the condition that life must answer. And life always answers, not with flame but with structure, not with speed but with endurance, not by fighting the cold but by becoming part of its rhythm. There are no warm-blooded animals in the Hadal trenches. No mammals dive so deep and stay so long. It is the invertebrates, the soft-bodied fish, the silent drifters who reign here. Their bodies are neither hot nor cold. They are exact. Their cells work at low temperatures because they were born into them. They do not miss the warmth. They have never known it. And still they move. A snailfish swims with transparent skin. A sea cucumber grazes across the mud. A shrimp with glowing eyes paddles through black currents, all of them wrapped in the ocean's ancient cold, all of them carrying the quiet heat of survival. This is the paradox of the deep sea, that in the coldest places life still burns, not with fire but with function, not with passion but with precision. It is a heat that cannot be felt on skin but is written into DNA. It is the fire that says, "I am still here." A fire that never flickers, even in the ice. Let us drift deeper now into this quiet world of frozen breath, where cold is not a season but a way of being. In these waters, life is stretched like glass, thin, flexible, shimmering in stillness. The cold does not kill. It carves. It molds. It presses against every living cell, asking only one question: can you remain? And the life that endures answers not with strength but with softness, with cleverness, with the art of holding on. Here, in the abyss where temperatures hover just above freezing, the body becomes a laboratory. Blood flows differently. Muscles contract with care. Each heartbeat is a calculation. Energy is precious. Warmth is rare. And survival means knowing how to spend almost nothing. Many deep-sea animals operate on the edge of metabolic silence, alive, but slow, like a candle glowing beneath glass. Consider the Antarctic icefish. It carries no hemoglobin in its blood, no red color, no iron-rich cells. Its blood is nearly clear, flowing gently through a cold, oxygen-rich sea. This adaptation, strange and elegant, saves energy in an environment where oxygen dissolves more easily and where temperature slows every process. The icefish does not need what warmer creatures cannot live without. It has evolved past it, simplifying in order to endure. In this cold, simplicity is a kind of genius. Organs shrink, bones soften, behaviors change. A fish that might hunt in bursts of speed in tropical waters becomes a slow-moving grazer, sensing rather than seeing, tasting rather than chasing. Eyes adjust to the dark. Skin becomes thinner or thicker, depending on the need. Every feature reflects a long agreement between the body and the cold. And the cold is never still. It flows in deep currents, great rivers of water that carry the memory of polar ice around the globe. These thermohaline currents, driven by temperature and salt, sink at the poles and creep across the sea floor, slowly feeding the ocean with ancient water. Life here rides these slow rivers like leaves on the wind. Larvae drift for years. Nutrients settle in long arcs. The cold connects everything, touching every coast, every trench, every species in time. Sometimes, life forms partnerships to survive the cold. Bacteria bond with worms, turning minerals into energy. Sponges shelter shrimp, trading warmth for safety. Even viruses, often seen only as threats, play a role in shaping ecosystems here, regulating microbial populations, influencing nutrient cycles, making space for new life to grow. These invisible relationships are stitched into the cold, held together by molecules and necessity. Creatures living near freezing hydrothermal seeps balance on a knife edge. One side offers warmth from the Earth's crust, just enough to speed life slightly. The other side is the embrace of cold, slowing everything once more. Some snails here live where only a few degrees separate boiling from freezing. They do not flee. They adapt. Their shells thicken. Their enzymes change. Their symbiotic bacteria adjust to the delicate chemistry of that thermal edge. This is not chaos. This is balance sculpted by extremes. And in the cold, death itself is slower. When a whale falls in the abyss, its decay is gentle. Microbes work slowly. Scavengers feed in intervals. Bones remain visible for decades, colonized by life layer after layer. Nothing is wasted, but nothing is rushed. In warm water, decay is rapid, explosive. In cold water, it is reverent, a transformation, not a disappearance. Some animals sleep through the worst of the cold. Arctic copepods sink into diapause, folding themselves inward like seeds, waiting for spring's return. Others migrate vertically, rising with the night to feed in slightly warmer layers, then sinking back into the chill by day. This daily migration, the largest movement of biomass on Earth, is guided by temperature as much as light. Cold is not just a condition, it is a compass. In the Southern Ocean, krill swarm in vast clouds, their bodies tuned to seasonal changes in ice and light. When the sea ice retreats in summer, phytoplankton bloom in the returning sun and the krill rise to feed. But in winter they grow slowly, shrink in size, even reabsorb their own body parts to conserve energy. They do not panic. They adapt. They trust the cold will pass as it always has. And yet not all cold is ancient. In some places it arrives suddenly, a shift in current, a sudden melt of ice, a drop in temperature caused by climate shifts. These rapid changes can undo what life has taken millennia to balance. Corals that once thrived in the deep freeze can bleach from sudden stress. Fish can lose their spawning cues. The rhythm breaks. The harmony shakes. But the sea remembers how to heal. In its coldest corners, resilience lies in the slowness. Damage happens gradually, and so does repair. Where the cold persists, life persists. Not in abundance, but in persistence. Not in brilliance, but in presence. And within that presence is a kind of warmth, not of temperature, but of meaning. The warmth of shared ancestry, of survival against stillness, of motion where motion should not be. To see a creature move in this world is to witness something sacred, a life burning against the weight of cold. These are not flames, they are embers, glowing softly in silence, fed by chemistry and time. They are the slow fire of adaptation, the steady heat of memory, the pulse that does not fade even when surrounded by ice. So the next time you feel the bite of winter or watch frost trace its fingers across a window, remember this. Beneath the ocean, in the places where cold reigns forever, life still moves. It whispers. It waits. It burns like fire, not in defiance, but in harmony. Now let us follow this story to its quiet end, moving with the same patience the cold sea teaches all things. In this place where water never warms, where light never lingers, and where time itself stretches thin, life continues, not in defiance, but in deep, careful accord with the cold. It thrives not by burning brighter, but by burning longer. It survives not by resisting, but by reshaping. The ocean's coldest realms are places of hidden movement. Beneath ice shelves and within frozen trenches, life flows slowly through time. Giant amphipods scuttle across the sea floor, pale and translucent, their bodies adapted to extreme pressure and the numbing cold. Their blood contains molecules that cling to oxygen with a tenderness shaped by evolution. Each breath they take is hard-earned and long-kept. Some fish build antifreeze proteins so precisely tuned they can bind to microscopic ice crystals and prevent them from growing. These proteins float in the blood like silent protectors, ensuring that life flows even when temperatures fall below freezing. These are not fiery molecules. They are blankets, wrapping the body in molecular softness, allowing the heart to beat beneath ice. And in this quiet, predators and prey move with reverence. The gulper eel opens its jaw slowly like a gate yawning beneath a cathedral. It waits, still as stone, for the slightest brush of motion. Its prey may drift unknowingly, unaware that it has entered a silent theater where every motion echoes. The strike, when it comes, is not quick. It is smooth, practiced, inevitable. The cold does not rush. It chooses its moments. Creatures of the cold are often invisible to us not because they are hidden, but because they move too slowly for our fast-burning eyes. A sea anemone may live for a century on a rock, never changing its place, feeding on particles the current brings. A sponge may grow for decades, its form shifting imperceptibly, its interior a library of microbial life. These are not dramatic beings. They are patient witnesses to the age of water. And life in the cold carries memory not in thought, but in form. The shape of a fish's fin tells of generations adapted to slow motion. The chemistry of a worm's gut tells of bacteria that have survived under pressure for eons. The icy crevices of the sea floor are full of these stories, fossils still breathing, genes still humming with instructions older than continents. Even light in the cold behaves differently. Bioluminescence here is not a show. It is a quiet glow, a whisper in the dark. Some animals pulse gently, marking their presence with the faintest light, a signal that says, "I am here," without shouting. This light is a thread connecting creatures in the blackness. It does not warm, it guides. And warmth, though rare, does arrive in small, miraculous ways. The breath of hydrothermal vents, the chemical reactions inside cells, the friction of moving joints. These are the fires of the deep, delicate, internal, vital. In a place where the cold is constant, even a few degrees can mean the difference between silence and song, between stillness and swim. The boundaries between life and non-life are thinner here. A dormant egg may wait for years before conditions change. A cyst may drift across the sea, frozen in place, until it finds a warmer pocket and blooms. Life here is written not in hours but in decades, not in sparks but in embers that never go out. And when life ends, it does so slowly. A dead jellyfish may float for days, its body sinking in spirals. Microbes begin their slow work. Small scavengers follow. Nothing is rushed. In the cold, even death is honored with time. What can this teach us, who live above the waves in warm places of noise and urgency? Perhaps that endurance is not always loud. That strength is not always speed. That fire, true fire, can burn in silence, slow and steady, without needing to rise. The cold of the sea is not cruel, it is exact, it is steady. It asks for adaptation, not resistance, for listening, not shouting, for deep breath, not quick motion. And the creatures who answer with transparent bodies, with antifreeze in their blood, with years lived in stillness, become the quiet masters of survival. They do not burn quickly, but they last. They do not glow brightly, but they guide. They do not speak loudly, but they are heard by the water, by each other, and at last by us. And so the sea, in its coldest corners, teaches us the final truth, that heat is not always flame and life is not always loud. Sometimes it is a slow pulse beneath the ice, a careful breath in the dark, a silent drift through freezing blackness, a steady, enduring yes in a world of endless no. And that is how the cold burns, not like fire but like memory. In the quietest parts of the ocean, where light cannot reach and darkness becomes a weight instead of a color, the question of vision becomes something strange and beautiful. What does it mean to see in a world without light? What use is an eye in a place where even the sun forgets to shine? Yet the creatures of the deep sea have answered these questions not with retreat, but with invention. They have made new ways to see, not with eyes as we know them, but with bodies shaped by shadow, tuned to the whisper of motion, to the hum of chemistry, to the rhythm of invisible light. For some, vision has vanished entirely. In the deepest trenches, fish swim with skin where their eyes once were. Crustaceans scuttle with no pupils, no corneas, no need for light at all. These animals do not mourn the loss of sight. They have built new senses in its place. Their feelers become longer. Their skin grows sensitive. Their inner maps sharpen. Where sight ends, something else begins, a kind of listening with the whole body. And then there are those who have kept their eyes but changed them. The barrel-eye fish, for instance, has eyes like green domes inside a transparent head. These eyes point upward, always scanning the faint glow of bioluminescent life above. Its head is like a window into a secret room, where light is trapped and turned gently into understanding. These are not eyes that chase daylight. They are eyes that wait, watch, and remember. In the realm of twilight, the mesopelagic zone, where the last traces of sun vanish into blue, vision must adapt to the thin leftovers of light. Here, animals evolve eyes that are enormous compared to their body size. The giant squid, rarely seen, carries eyes the size of dinner plates, capable of sensing the faintest flicker from a mile away. These eyes do not look for detail. They look for movement, for contrast, for the signature of something breathing where the blackness should be still. Other eyes become mirrors. The spookfish has eyes that split, one part looking upward, the other downward, both filled with crystals that reflect and focus the dimmest beams. These eyes do not simply collect light, they sculpt it, concentrating scraps of brightness into something usable. A conversation with the sea in fragments of silver. Bioluminescence changes everything. Creatures learn to see not just in the absence of light, but in the presence of light made by life. Some fish can see in colors invisible to us, shades of blue, flashes of ultraviolet, even polarized light that tells them the direction of a swimming shape. To see in the deep is not to open your eyes wide. It is to open them differently. Some animals carry their own eyes as lures. The anglerfish's glowing lure is not just bait, it is a trick of sight. Its prey, sensing motion and light, drifts closer. The anglerfish remains still, invisible, until it no longer needs to be. The moment sight becomes touch, the moment curiosity crosses the edge of shadow, the trap closes. Here, vision is a promise and a warning. And still, others use eyes for communication, not just perception. The flashlight fish has glowing patches beneath its eyes that it can cover or reveal, blinking in a silent language across coral walls and through murky currents. These are not just organs of vision. They are beacons, signs, maybe even symbols. In a world of black, a single blink becomes a sentence. For many creatures, the question is not how to see more, but how to see less, just enough to survive. Too much vision can reveal you. The hatchetfish, for instance, has eyes adapted to look upward toward any hint of silhouette, while its own body is shaped like a silver coin, reflecting light in ways that make it disappear. Its vision is precise but narrow, a tool, not a floodlight. And for those who cannot see at all, there is still vision, just by other names. Electric fields sensed by sharks, magnetic pulses felt by turtles, vibrations read through the bones of fish and the soft hairs of shrimp. These are eyes that exist without eyeballs, sight without seeing, understanding through sensation, through the ripple of a tail, through the change in current, through the faint shadow of movement too soft for light. The deep ocean is not blind, it is differently sighted, and the creatures who dwell here are not lost in darkness, they are fluent in it. They are readers of shadow, interpreters of flow, architects of clarity in the absence of glow. Their eyes, whether missing, glowing, mirrored, or vast, do not seek to escape the dark. They seek to understand it. And so they become something extraordinary, not just seers but feelers of light and unlight alike. They remind us that sight is not always about light. Sometimes it is about contrast, about change, about the presence of a thing that should not be there or the absence of something that should. And in this noticing there is vision, deep, true, timeless vision. So when you think of the deep, do not think of it as blind. Think of it as filled with alternate eyes, with ways of seeing that do not rely on brightness but on presence, with vision that feels, that glows, that echoes, with creatures that, in the total absence of light, have built new ways to know. Let us follow these eyes further into the dark, tracing their evolution through generations of shadow and silence. In this world without sunlight, where blackness is both home and horizon, vision becomes something more than the ability to see. It becomes the art of survival, the craft of sensing what should not be visible, of detecting presence through echoes, flashes, glimmers, and ripples. In the absence of brightness, every flicker becomes meaningful, every shape an event, every shimmer a story. Many deep-sea animals have grown their eyes larger not for beauty but for function. The colossal squid, with eyes as large as basketballs, can detect the faintest outlines of sperm whales far away. These are not eyes built to admire color or shape, but to notice disturbance, a shadow passing, a change in water pressure, the slow unraveling of movement through liquid silence. These creatures live in a world of minimal contrast, and so their vision adapts to contrast itself. Some fish have tubular eyes, long, upward-facing cones that focus on the narrow vertical corridor above them. These eyes are so specialized they see only what's needed: a falling prey, a flash of bioluminescence, a passing silhouette against the distant dim glow from above. These narrow-sighted fish are not disadvantaged. They are precise. They've learned to filter out the unnecessary to see only what matters. Others have developed dual vision systems, like the brown-snout spookfish, which splits its eye into two parts. One part catches dim light from above, while the other uses mirrors, yes, actual biological mirrors, to reflect and focus light from below. In doing so, the fish sees both directions at once, embracing the dark like a prism, bending absence into awareness. Their eyes are not simply lenses. They are devices of perspective, shaped by the sea's strange demands. In many deep-sea shrimp and crustaceans, compound eyes form on stalks, scanning wide arcs of space. Some have reflecting structures inside their eyes called tapetum lucidum, much like cats and owls. These reflections increase their sensitivity, helping them see with almost no light at all. Their world is not black, it is layered in shades of soft motion. Not color but current, not detail but direction. But even the sharpest eyes must sometimes close. So evolution has offered another path: to give up vision altogether. In the deepest trenches, where no light has touched for millions of years, some creatures have no eyes at all. The yeti crab, for instance, grows thick fur-like bacteria on its claws, harvesting energy from hydrothermal vent chemicals. It does not need to see. It needs only to feel, to sense heat, texture, vibration. It reads the world through its limbs. Blind cavefish, too, born in sunless caverns, have skin so sensitive they can map their world through changes in pressure. They do not see walls, they feel their nearness. They do not watch for food, they detect its movement through water. Their heads carry specialized cells, lateral lines tuned to the subtlest flow. They are not lost, they are reoriented. And in many ways, we too once relied on these primal senses. In our own bodies lies a remnant of this ancient system: the vestibular balance, the skin's temperature receptors, the pressure sensors in our joints. These are echoes of a time when knowing was not only visual, when darkness did not mean blindness, and when the body itself was an organ of perception. In the ocean, that knowing still lives. Creatures use lateral lines along their sides to sense movement. They detect changes in vibration and pressure, understanding what swims nearby without looking. This is a kind of proprioception turned outward. The world is not only inside them, it flows around them and they are fluent in it. Some fish detect electric fields, sensing the faint charges given off by other animals' muscles. This electroreception allows them to navigate, hunt, and avoid danger without light. Sharks and rays are particularly gifted at this, their bodies dotted with ampullae of Lorenzini, tiny gel-filled pores that act like antennae for the invisible energy in water. These are not eyes, but they are just as revealing. And even those who retain vision do not rely on it alone. The deep-sea dragonfish has eyes that can detect both visible and infrared light, a rarity in the ocean. It uses this to its advantage, emitting red bioluminescence that only it can see. In this way, it searches without being seen, hunts without being hunted. It carries a secret torch in the dark, unseen by all except itself. But there is more than adaptation in these stories. There is poetry. There is a slow shaping of sight into something that no longer needs the sun. The sea teaches that vision is not a single path. It is a spectrum of perception, a constant unfolding. And perhaps even in our own lives this truth remains. We often think of seeing as a thing done with the eyes, but the creatures of the deep remind us that true perception happens everywhere, in the skin, the movement, the pause, the memory, the change in tone, the soft pressure of something near. To see is to notice. To notice is to feel. And to feel is to know. So the next time you close your eyes, remember the animals who live with theirs closed always. Not because they are broken, but because they have grown beyond needing light. They do not fear the dark. They navigate it with grace. And in doing so, they prove that vision in its truest form is not about light. It is about awareness. Now we arrive at the soft closing of this visionless voyage, where light fades not in tragedy but in transformation. In the deep, life does not chase brightness. It grows in the absence of it. It learns to sense, to feel, to understand in ways that light would only distract from. These are not creatures who have lost their sight. They are beings who have evolved beyond needing it, who have redefined what it means to perceive. Among the trenches and hollows of the sea floor, where sunlight has never passed and the years roll like slow tides, animals live by other senses entirely. A fish might never see its predator but will know it by the shift in current, the echo of movement, the brief pressure change that brushes its skin like breath. A worm might burrow deeper, not because it saw danger, but because it felt the pattern of silence break, the rhythm of stillness change. Vision here is not the flicker of color, it is the awareness of interruption. And those who do retain sight retain it in ways we can barely imagine. Some see flashes of polarized light, subtle angles of waves we cannot detect. Others see patterns in bioluminescence invisible to our eyes. A tiny shrimp may look into the darkness and see shapes of ultraviolet, a hidden spectrum pulsing with meaning. These are not shadows to them. They are maps, signs, signals. Some species glow not just for hunting or hiding, but to speak. Their lights blink and pulse in rhythm, flashing codes across the vastness of dark. These lights become names, warnings, invitations. Some flicker to attract mates, others to declare territory. The deep sea is not silent in light, it is full of language made from it. A lanternfish may spend its life in one band of depth, knowing its kind only through shared pulses, like a Morse code whispered in blue. And there is empathy, too, in the darkness. Parental care does not vanish without sight. Some deep-sea octopuses brood their eggs for years, guarding them in the pitch black, sensing their safety with touch alone. Their arms curl protectively around future lives they may never see hatch, but still they stay. They feel their children's growth not through sight, but through stillness, through warmth, through the rhythm of time itself. In this way, darkness does not erase connection, it deepens it. Without sight, trust must come from other senses. Fish schooling in perfect harmony feel the flow of one another. Crabs tapping their surroundings know the texture of home. Shrimp, hiding in sponge walls, communicate by vibration and touch. These connections are not less. They are often more precise, more intimate, less distracted by the shifting brightness of day. Even the sea floor itself, invisible in all ways, becomes a teacher of shapes. A fish who sleeps along ridges will learn them by contour, by temperature, by the way sound bounces back differently from stone than from mud. Some navigate by scent trails, some by chemical gradients so fine we do not have words to describe them. And some, perhaps many, follow maps written into their cells by ancestral journeys, responding to cues we have yet to measure. The loss of eyes does not mean a lack of story. In many cases, the genes that once made vision now shape other things: better touch receptors, finer electrosense organs, more accurate motion detection. Evolution does not waste. It rearranges. It reuses. What was once an eye becomes a guide of another kind. And in this long reshaping there is wisdom. The creatures of the deep teach us that seeing is not about detail, it is about discernment. They do not need to see a shape's color to know its purpose. They do not need a face to understand intent. They sense presence, movement, silence. They respond to what is near, not only to what is visible. We on land often fear the dark. We light our cities. We chase brightness. We associate clarity with vision and vision with truth. But the deep sea reminds us that some of the most truthful lives unfold in the dark, that the most precise movements are made by those who feel, not see, that the most enduring knowledge is written not in pictures, but in patterns of water and time. And when we peer into these depths with machines, submersibles with cameras, beams of artificial light, we often forget that we are changing the world we wish to observe. Our lights blind, our presence disturbs. We make the visible world out of one that was never meant to be seen. And still the creatures endure. Some flee, some freeze, some flash. But all of them in time resume the silence. They wait for the brightness to pass, for their own world to return. A world where vision is not the same as knowing, where light is not needed for life to be rich. And perhaps that is the final lesson from these eyes that see without light. That perception is not bound to brightness, and that clarity is not always about seeing further, but about feeling deeper. In the stillest trenches, where no eye gazes and no light flickers, life continues. Not in defiance, but in peace. And in every fin that senses change, in every tendril that reads vibration, in every soft glow that flashes once then disappears, the ocean speaks. You do not need light to see. You only need presence. And presence, like the deep, endures. In the quietest reaches of the sea, deeper than sunlight can ever go, a steady rhythm pulses in the dark. It is not the beating of a single heart, but the collective thrum of 1,000 silent lives stitched together by pressure, shadow, and time. This is the midnight zone, a world so deep, so vast, that it becomes a cathedral of stillness. And yet even here there is a pulse. Even here something moves. Imagine descending into this realm. Light fades quickly, then completely. The blue of the upper ocean disappears behind you like the closing of a door. Pressure builds around your body, hundreds of times stronger than what you've ever known. Every sound muffles. Every echo vanishes. But deep inside there is a sense that something lives here, something ancient, slow, and unshaken. This is not an empty place. It is a waiting place. The creatures that dwell here do not hurry. They drift. They hover. They pulse gently, their lives measured not in minutes or hours, but in tides and pressure shifts. Some may go days without moving more than a few inches. Others swim in slow arcs through a world where energy must be saved like breath. And yet they are alive as we are, just quieter. At the center of this place is pressure. Not just the physical kind, though it is immense, enough to crush unprotected metal, but also the weight of silence, of time, of ancient memory. Life here has wrapped itself around this pressure, using it as a mold. Fish have bones so soft they bend, bodies so gelatinous they cannot be crushed. Their forms seem like water wearing skin. One of these beings, the snailfish, has become the deepest living known vertebrate. Its body is pale, almost translucent, with no scales to shield it. It floats in the Mariana Trench like a thought, unarmored and unhurried. It does not resist the deep. It becomes part of it. Its heartbeat is faint, slow, like the tapping of rain against stone. But it continues minute after minute, day after day. Proof that even in the coldest, darkest press of the earth, something gentle can thrive. Elsewhere, enormous jellyfish bloom in the dark. Their bells rise and fall in smooth cycles, pulsing with bioluminescence like breath in reverse. Each pulse is a decision, a movement forward, a soft song to the sea. These jellyfish do not chase, they wait. Their tentacles drift out like arms offering silence. They do not strike, they gather. They feed not on conquest but on chance. And in doing so, they live without disturbing the stillness around them. And there are giants here, too, colossal squids whose limbs stretch wider than cars, whose eyes are wider than your face. They live in solitude, surfacing only in legend and rare camera glimpses. Their hearts beat slowly, each pump a press of purpose through miles of dark. They are not monsters. They are memories, ancient echoes of evolution's patient hand. The Midnight Zone holds not just individual hearts, but ecosystems that beat together. The fall of a whale carcass, a whale fall begins a slow feast that can last for decades. First come the sharks, then the hagfish, then the worms and crabs and microbes. A community gathers in the dark, brought together by a single ending. What once breathed air now feeds 1,000 hearts. And the rhythm of life begins again, around bone and silence and slow decay. Hydrothermal vents crack the ocean floor, releasing warm, mineral-rich water into the black. Around them, life blooms with startling vibrance, not from sunlight but from chemistry. Tubeworms grow in towers, each without mouth or stomach, nourished by bacteria that live inside them. These bacteria, in turn, feed on hydrogen sulfide, transforming poison into nourishment. A strange, quiet miracle, a heartbeat born of stone and gas. And still the pulse continues, not steady like a clock, but organic, shifting. It moves in cycles, in swells, in migrations so slow they are almost invisible. Lanternfish, the most numerous vertebrates on Earth, rise and fall in the world's largest daily migration, ascending by night to feed, sinking by day to rest in the dark. Their movement is the pulse of the sea itself, the ocean breathing in and out without ever making a sound. There is rhythm in the reproduction, too. Some species only spawn once every few years, sending out clouds of eggs into the dark, trusting that some will survive. Others reproduce by cloning, dividing themselves in silence, no partner needed. Their continuity is the rhythm, not passionate but persistent, not loud but lasting. And through all of this, one truth remains. The Midnight Zone is not lifeless. It is simply tuned to a different beat. A slower, softer, deeper rhythm that does not demand to be heard but can still be felt if you stay long enough, if you listen with more than your ears. The ocean here does not pulse with urgency. It pulses with patience. Let us sink deeper now into this slow-moving rhythm, into the quiet breathing of a realm where life is not rushed, but drawn long and low like a tide that never turns. The Midnight Zone stretches far across the globe, a layer of the ocean so vast it wraps the planet in shadow. Yet within this seeming sameness, life has carved out 1,000 tiny kingdoms, each with its own way of pulsing through time. There are currents here, but they do not rage. They drift. They carry bits of falling food from the sunlit world above, a snow of soft debris called marine snow, made of dead plankton, fish scales, plant fragments, fecal matter, and dust. It falls like dreams from another world, slow and quiet and constant. For many creatures, this snow is everything. They drift through it with open mouths, catching particles like wishes. Some wait on the sea floor, mouths turned upward, catching what they can. Each flake is a whisper of life from far away. Among these flakes drift small animals with large importance. Copepods, krill, larval creatures, each barely visible yet vital. Some flash briefly with bioluminescence as they move, tiny sparks blinking in a world that has never known sunrise. These flashes are not just light, they are defense, confusion, warning. A distraction that lets the creature disappear again into shadow. It is a kind of heartbeat, pulsing once, then gone. Deeper still, we meet the tripod fish, who stands upright on long, spindly fins, waiting patiently on the ocean floor. It does not hunt. It does not roam. It listens. Its fins act like antennae, sensing the faintest vibrations in the sediment. When something stirs nearby, the fish moves, slowly, gently, like a leaf shifting in a breeze. Its heart beats in rhythm with the tremble of the deep, not the chase of prey. Other creatures use the rhythm of the water itself. The deep-sea hatchetfish, with its silver sides and thin body, rises at night and sinks by day in perfect synchrony with the world's slowest tide. It carries photophores, tiny light-producing organs, along its belly, which it uses to match the faint glow from above, making its outline disappear. This camouflage is called counterillumination, and it is more than a trick. It is a survival rhythm, an attunement to both light and dark, both presence and absence. Even predators in the midnight zone do not rage with hunger. The deep-sea lizardfish, long and still as driftwood, waits in ambush for hours. Its jaws are lined with needle-sharp teeth that catch prey the moment it passes close. But it does not rush the act. It watches, it waits. Its energy must be preserved. Its metabolism, like its world, is slow. One good meal might last weeks. There are sea cucumbers that roll across the floor in search of detritus, and brittle stars that wave their arms to catch drifting food. These creatures do not feed in frenzy. They feed like monks, slowly and with care, each mouthful earned from the rhythm of the sea's generosity. And when something large dies and sinks, a fish, a shark, a seal, the midnight zone gathers. Hagfish arrive, twisting their eel-like bodies into knots, using suction to pull flesh apart. Crabs scuttle into the feast. Worms emerge from sand, each drawn by scent, by trace chemicals that drift on invisible currents. It is a solemn dance of decomposition, a chorus of digestion, and though it is death, it pulses with life. There are volcanoes down here, two hydrothermal vents where hot mineral water pours into the cold sea. Around these vents, where fire meets brine, life pulses differently. Bacteria feed directly on chemicals like hydrogen sulfide. These bacteria live inside the bodies of tube worms, crabs, and clams. Their symbiosis is complete. The worms have no mouths, no stomachs, only hosts for the microbes who feed them. Together they beat out a new rhythm, one made not from sun or plant, but from rock and gas. Even the structure of the sea itself moves in rhythm. Internal waves rise and fall like ghosts, invisible to the eye but strong enough to stir life for miles. They carry warmth, nutrients, and whispers of change. They flow along the boundaries between water layers like the sea's own breath, exhaling gently from depth to depth. Some species respond to these patterns with reproductive cycles tuned to the moon or the seasons above. Even in the dark, they can feel the pull. Their gametes drift into the water column in perfect synchrony, hopping to meet, to mix, to become something new. There is no moonlight here, but the moon still matters. The pulse reaches even this far. And within all of this, every pulse, every drift, every fall is a kind of unity. The deep sea does not separate life from life. It connects it. The shrimp that feeds on falling snow is connected to the whale that stirred the current above. The fish that blinks with light is seen by a squid with eyes tuned to flicker. The scavenger crab follows a path made by a decomposing jellyfish, all of it moving in quiet loops. To the surface world, the midnight zone seems lifeless, but this illusion comes from impatience, from the need to see quickly, to name instantly, to measure immediately. Down here, everything waits, everything listens, everything survives by moving in time with the sea, not against it. This is the heartbeat of the midnight zone, a pulse too slow for shallow eyes, too deep for surface breath. It is not loud, it is not bright, but it is steady, and it holds the world together from below. Let us stay a little longer in this vast cathedral of stillness, where the rhythm of life hums not in daylight, but in the measured patience of shadow. The midnight zone does not end, it only deepens. It stretches like an endless breath beneath the surface of our world, a place where time moves not by clocks but by cycles, of pressure, of drift, of feeding, of death and becoming. In this final descent we find not silence but serenity. The creatures here are not still from fear, they are still from understanding. There is nothing to chase in a place where haste would only waste precious energy. Everything that survives here does so by aligning with the deep's quiet instructions. Move gently, feed slowly, rest often, and feel everything. This is not a place of noise, but of clarity. Consider the vampire squid, a creature of quiet contradiction. Despite its name, it harms almost nothing. It drifts through the deep with its cloak-like arms wrapped around itself, glowing gently with tiny lights. It feeds on detritus, bits of organic matter that sink from above. When threatened, it does not flee in panic. Instead, it inverts its arms around its body, revealing spikes that are soft, not sharp, a gesture of warning more than defense. Its whole life is a poem of conservation. A life written not in attack, but in endurance. Even the coral structures in the deep grow with this slowness. Unlike their shallow, sunlit cousins, deep-sea corals grow without light. They live for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years, building intricate branches in cold, black stillness. Some may only grow a few millimeters per year, yet their presence gives shelter, gives structure, gives meaning to a world that otherwise drifts. They are the bones of the deep's heartbeat, hard, silent, steady. The hearts of these animals beat slowly, often just once every few seconds. Their blood flows like oil, thick and deliberate. Their muscles conserve. Their cells repair in silence. This slowness is not a weakness, it is a signature, an adaptation, a response to a world where food is rare, change is subtle, and light does not guide. In their hearts is not urgency but resilience. And this rhythm is not isolated, it is global. The midnight zone wraps around the earth like a soft band, touching every ocean, beneath every ship, beneath every continent's edge. It is a hidden sea beneath the sea, and in its pulse there is unity. What happens in the dark Pacific finds echo in the Indian, in the Atlantic, in the Arctic's under-ice plains. A whale fall in one trench becomes the echo of another decades later. A current that stirs life in the deep Mediterranean may touch Antarctica, given time. This heartbeat is shared. And it is ancient. Some of the creatures here have changed little in hundreds of millions of years. The coelacanth, once thought extinct, swims in the deep with fins like arms, moving in a slow rhythm that feels like memory itself. It is not a relic. It is a survivor, a keeper of the sea's earliest songs. Others, like the frilled shark, look like whispers from another age, slender, ribboned, with eyes that see little but feel everything. This deep rhythm shapes us too, whether we know it or not. The great conveyor belt of ocean circulation, the thermohaline current, moves through this zone, carrying heat, salt, oxygen. It stabilizes climate. It feeds plankton. It breathes for the planet. It is slow, so slow that a single drop of water might take 1,000 years to make the full journey. But it moves. And in its movement, Earth lives. When we disturb these depths, when trawlers scrape the sea floor or mining equipment rumbles down, this rhythm is shaken. Corals that took centuries to grow are shattered in seconds. Silt clouds rise, suffocating lungs that never saw a storm. Creatures that have never known light die in confusion. The deep forgets nothing. Every wound echoes. And yet there is hope. Scientists listen now to this heartbeat, measuring oxygen, watching migrations, mapping the silent reefs. Submersibles drift through the dark not to conquer but to learn. In their soft lights, we glimpse the outlines of things older than memory, and we begin to understand that the deep is not separate from us. It is part of our breath, our rain, our climate, our story. So when you close your eyes tonight, imagine this. Far beneath you, past the light, past the cold, past even the edges of what most would call life, something